Fellas, there's something special about opening up a YouTube video and then the very first thing you see is Tier Maker, bro. You know your day is about to get 1,000 times better. Fellas, I have a fun one for you. So we're going to talk about trendy exercises from the history of YouTube fitness, from the ancient era to the modern era. I'm going to tell you what I think about them and then talk a little bit about who I attribute them to. Which, if I forgot an exercise or something, let me know and then I'll rank them in an addendum comment. But we're going to talk about ranking them from immortal to useless and grading criteria. Here's what the video will not be, though. I am not going to critique these individuals. I'm not going to speak ill of their content or of the content creator. This is just going to be about the exercises. Now, starting with a controversial one and one that is fresh in all of our heads, the incline curl. Now, grading criteria based upon where I'm going to put this at. Man, I have to start with the most important grading criteria, chattiness. How cool does it look? How effective was it? And then how many people it's gotten to train. I'm going to put the incline curl in grade. I feel like the whole incline curl debate, because I'm a viewer just like y'all, so I have theories. I think the whole thing was just a giga-brain way to get people to do like a stretch-based curl. I'm going to be honest with you. You've got the Chad Steve Reeves here doing it, but it was Jeffrey and Natural Hypertrophy that facilitated that whole exchange. Very entertaining and very valuable to the viewer, because what you're ultimately left with is an exercise that Jeffrey really likes that works well, and an exercise that Natural Hypertrophy likes that works really well. So you're left with two exercises to pick from, two groups of exercises to pick from. And that was me weighing in on incline curls. A lot of people have been asking. I meant to actually rank this one first, bro. My bad. So Cluck and Bell. This represents bulking. You gotta bulk. You gotta eat to support your training. Rich Piana was the fella that I can think of that first was like, bro, you have trouble gaining weight, try eating more fucking calories. Enough said, bro. You gotta eat to support your training, and that's like a litmus test to decide, you know, if the information that you're receiving is good or not. That's as personal as I'm gonna get. Now, speaking of Rich, we're gonna talk about Rich. And we're going to talk about John Meadows. I miss both of these fellas. The 8-hour arm workout, bro, immutably immortal within the fitness industry. It will always be, even if it's just a meme that people refer to, it's always going to be something that people reference. I don't even have to explain that. And then for the same reason, John Meadows and his body of work is irreplaceable. There's never going to be another fella like John. I just happen to pick the Meadows row because it's named after him. And that's what I feel like his most famous exercise was that was attributed to him. But you could put anything here for John, and it would be immortal because he was that good. Now, rings. I know somebody's waiting for me to put it in immortal and then comment, dude, bench press. I stopped benching to do ring training. Am I going to put it in immortal, or is it useless? I don't know, man. We're going to talk about that in a second. Just want to talk about our man Athlete X. Now, he ironically made upright rows very popular just by talking about how dangerous they were so much. I don't know about you, but hearing him talk about how dangerous it was, low-key just made me want to prove that it wasn't inherently a dangerous movement. You know, if you can, all jokes aside, do something with your body without weight and it not hurt, you can add some degree of resistance and it's not inherently dangerous. Dr. Mike Israetel later went on to endorse the exercise as well. Athlete X was the progenitor, though, so even though he doesn't like it, I gotta give him credit. I'm gonna just put it in great tier, though, just because I don't feel as though it's legendary or immortal. Now let's see, the face pull. Is it novelty? Is it useless? It's great. Obviously, Athlete X is known for pumping out hundreds of face pull videos. Ironically, I think I grabbed an icon where he said stop doing face pulls. That's crazy. Maybe I'll watch that one. That's funny because he's like the face pull guy. Really good exercise, good for prehab, rehab, bodybuilding too. Really cool workout I like is called Surf the Stack. So you do like a heavy set of 12 or 15 or whatever. Take off a plate, do 12 more, take off a plate until your delts are the size of planets. Really effective. Now, I've been waiting a little bit to talk about this stack of dimes, but this stack of dimes, what does he represent? He's in the useless tier, but what does he represent? To me, he represents the fad dieting, the obsession with shreds, man gaining, all of these terrible relationships with food that we've built as a community in the fitness industry. It just everything that keeps people small and swimming in their pants like this fella here. Guys, you have to eat to support your training. There's a reason why bulking is at the top and then this nonsense is at the bottom. This is like the #1 thing that limits people, and like easily, in my opinion, the most useless thing to have ever come out of the fitness industry. And there's no one individual to attribute that to. It's just a caliber of content creator that purports that type of nonsense. All that out the way, bro. We got to talk about the squat, bench, and the deadlift. So we just grab the deadlift, grab the squat, grab the bench. Regardless of your personal opinion on how effective they are for bodybuilding or for whatever, you have to admit their influence. And I have to attribute that to Ripito first and foremost, Omar, and Alan Thrall. All right, those are the 3 fellas that I can think of that really made the big 3 very popular on YouTube. They just warped the entire meta of training around them. There's not enough that can be said about how influential they are. They're very effective exercises. They're time tested. We'll continue to do them for hundreds of years. And regardless of your personal opinion or if you use them or not yourself at the moment, they're always going to be in this Immortal tier. They're never going to be outclassed. There's just going to be tools that work differently or just as well. Now rings, I just talked about bench press, bro. Am I gonna put rings in the same tier as bench press? We're gonna get to that. Let's talk about calisthenics. So I have my man Daniel from Fitness FAQs. He is not someone that I would solely attribute to making calisthenics popular on YouTube, but literally, bro, when you Google calisthenics workout, I think one of his videos is the first one that comes up, and I think he has the largest platform. There's also Chris Heria, Austin Dunham. Those are like the 3 big ones that I remember talking about calisthenics training a long time ago. But calisthenics training has been around for thousands of years, just like the big 3, except for these are in the modern era, like 100 years ago. And people have been doing freaking calisthenics since there was barbarian and gladiator matches. It's an immutably effective training system. We're always going to do push-ups. We're always going to do pull-ups. We have to talk about weighted calisthenics as well. I don't know who I would attribute this to, but for me it would be, when I think calisthenics guy on YouTube, weighted calisthenics, it's Smaev. Weighted calisthenics is an alternative way for people who don't like the big 3 to work really hard, which unlike odd lifts is actually effective. Like you're going to get jacked legs, doing loaded lunges and barbell squats, which I guess is a barbell squat, duh. But obviously a weighted dip and a weighted pull-up is different from the bench press and then the deadlift. If you do those 3 things, you're gonna still be jacked, and it's just an alternative way to do that if you're not the best at these or you just don't like one of these. Man, where am I gonna put odd lifts? I think Ricky the Eagle is easily the fella that I would attribute this to. He's the strongest guy to do odd lifts on YouTube for sure that I can think of. He was the most charismatic and the one that we've all seen that I Need a Hero video. All right, like don't pretend like you haven't. I don't think that odd lifts are very effective as a training system. I'm stuck between Legendary and Immortal. I'm just gonna put them in Immortal just simply because there's other things that can put it here. Odd lifts are not as effective as squat, bench, deadlift, and other things that you can do. There's no debate, no contention there. But what it did was it gave people who didn't like to squat, bench, and deadlift or weren't good at it a way to train hard and to feel as though they were making progress in the gym and to do something that was different, novel, and fun that was still good enough to where you're still getting all the major benefits of weight training. You're not wasting your time per se. You'd be wasting your time if you were trying to get good at the big 3. But if you were just lifting to horse around a lot of weight and get in the gym and be active, odd lifts are the way to go. Now, obviously, Alex was really big into the odd lifts back in the day. And in the modern era, we got Atlas Power Shrug doing the odd lifts. Can't say enough good things about their influence. I don't think they're effective as tools compared to like the big 3, but you can't deny their influence. Come on. Speaking of odd lifts, where am I going to put Kiriako's Grizzly? If I'm going to put an exercise attributed to Rick the Stick, I have to put in the strongest odd lift guy that I can think of. Now, I'm not even going to call them odd lifts. It's like God lifts, all right? Because he's a freaking deity, right? He's full. We got the golden ratio on his freaking icon. I don't think there's anyone on YouTube Fitness that can literally just turn on a camera, scream, yell, and lift weights, and that's all he does. Ricky the Eagle's known for that, but he's also known for like talking to you as well about different things. Kyriakos Grizzly, we know nothing about him other than he's a stud, all right? And he makes videos thanking us for his subs or whatever sometimes, but usually he's just yelling or making noises and lifting weights, and it has helped so many people be excited to go to the gym and train. He has so much respect. I can't not put him in Immortal. I'm actually going to put him right next to Cluckenbell because he's full, right? These aren't ranked in order, by the way, but other than these two, Kapakulak and then the Cluckenbell. A lot of people are waiting for me to talk about these rings. We're going to talk about rings. We won't put them in Immortal. Here's why. I'm just joking, bro. We're going to put them in Great, all right? So I can't put them on the same tier as Calisthenics or weighted calisthenics because rings are just a means of being able to do one of those, right? I'm not going to put it on the same level as the bench press for the same reason. It's just a way to work your chest. It's a very effective way to work your chest, your upper body. You can do isolations on it as well, but I feel it's best for the compound lifts. I've maintained my bench press doing rings. They're very muscular taxing and they're a lot of fun, but I can't put them on the same tier because it's not legendary, it's not meta defining, it's just a tool in the toolbox, right? Now, speaking of tools in the toolbox, Dr. Mike Israetel is really known for the stiff-legged deadlift and then like the full ROM squat, like a tempo pause squat bodybuilder style. The full ROM methodology offers so many more tools in the toolbox than what was afforded in like the powerlifting era of YouTube Fitness because muscularly, we were limited by the rules of powerlifting, which was just crazy to me because most of us don't even do powerlifting, bro. The vast majority of us don't, but we did these lifts to a powerlifting standard for some reason, right? But Dr. Mike comes around talking about the stimulus to fatigue ratio and stiff-legged deadlifts and ATG squats and range of motion, and I'm just like, man, this is like, it gives you a whole other way to look at training. And again, it's just tools in the toolbox, but what elevates it above stuff in the great tier is that it has created a subculture of lifters that are all into the full ROM methodology, for better or for worse. I could honestly, in 20 years, put it in Immortal tier. I just don't feel like Dr. Mike's been making content for quite long enough for it to be in the Immortal tier. It's not a knock on Dr. Mike. He's a really cool guy, but I just feel as though in time, we can put it in the Immortal tier. It's just not that time yet, in my opinion. Y'all let me know how you feel about that. I could go either way. I could entertain both talking points. I've been staring at this dinosaur-sized horse since I freaking pressed the record button, bro. What does this signify? We're gonna put it in. I'm stuck between this because I know what it is. I know what this signifies. I'm stuck between legendary and great. This signifies yoke training, like training your upper back, your lats, your neck, your traps, like all those auxiliary muscles, your shoulders. We have to attribute it to Alex, and I think I'm going to put it in legendary tier. I'll decide after when I'm done talking about it. But he was ahead of the curve in a lot of the things that he talks about. It wasn't as popular then as it is now, but big neck, big traps, big back is something that people really seek. It is very sought after in the modern era. And he was just ahead of the curve in that regard. It's created a generation of people that just want to be yoked, all right? So whether they know it came from him or not, it really did. He was one of the bigger channels that talked about it. I'm going to put it in legendary. I'm stuck between the two. It created enough people that want to get yoked for it to be legendary, in my opinion. Plus, it's got the jacked and stacked myostatin deficient horse that is half dinosaur, so we're going to put it in legendary. Let's talk about the legendary Larsen press. I kind of spoiled where I'm going to put it by calling it the legendary Larsen press. Let's go ahead and put it in the front runner. It's going to be an Immortal exercise one day. The more people who are just casually interested in lifting that I see doing this, the closer and closer it's going to get to Immortal. Who is attributed with the Larsen press? It is not Adrian Larsen, funnily enough. It is Freaky D. If you Google Larsen press, you go to Google Images, you see pictures of Freaky D, Larsen pressing 5 plates. That's 495 pounds in freedom units. I don't know how much that is in kg. But, dude, like, I saw him do this exercise a long time ago. I started doing it. You saw me do it. And then a lot of people started doing it from there. I'm not going to take the credit for that, though. I got to give credit to Freaky D every time I talk about it because he's the one that I saw it from. It'll be mortal one day, but for right now, it's legendary. The best bench accessory known to man. Not an unstable exercise. Make a video talking about that soon. Unstable exercises, but that's a video for another day. I've been staring at the freaking barbell row for a while now. I want to talk about Brian Ulceru. He's who I attribute, like, the guy that made barbell rowing popular, like training your back as much as you train your front, having a strong row. That A Case for Barbell Rows video, how many of y'all remember that? I saw that, and this jacked guy who was super funny, very kind, and might I add, jacked, if I didn't already say that, said, look, bro, your row should be as strong as your bench press, and here's why. And ever since I saw that video, rowing has just been something that I've done, and I'm sure that's the case for a lot of people. All right? So we're going to talk about strongman training. I'm not going to solely attribute that to Brian, but he's the first fella that I saw talk about strongman training. But in then looking into it, you know, obviously you have your Brian Shaws, your Hafthor Bjornsson, your Eddie Halls, all the jacked and stacked houses of strongman. I think that strongman as a training system, honestly, with it, to my knowledge, being a more popular sport to watch than powerlifting, it gets people strong, it gets people in shape. You're not necessarily going to be lean because I feel like it naturally selects for people that are on the healthier side, but you're going to get a lot of the benefits that people want from resistance training, which is being strong and being fit. I think you can honestly put CrossFit in the same tier. Now, wait, all right, so I'm not comparing strongman to CrossFit. I'd catch myself because I don't want some 6'6" house dropping an Atlas stone on my head in my sleep because I compared strongman to CrossFit. But I feel as though on a high level, CrossFit is also something that has allowed a lot of people that otherwise weren't interested in lifting weights to lift weights and get strong and fit doing it. They're just smaller than strongmen typically. Which if you're a jacked CrossFit guy, okay, I'm not calling you small, but you're not Eddie Hall size, just to be real. Do whatever the fuck you want to do, though. Where is that from? It's from the Hodge twins. They used to say that at the end of all their videos. Do whatever the fuck you want to do. That is a very important statement that was so wise beyond like most of our understanding, because it just tells you that despite the authority that you may think someone holds on YouTube and how convinced they are of themselves with the advice that they're giving, it's just advice. Right? Do whatever you want to do. So if I say something that disagrees with what you do and what you do works well, do what you're doing. It works for you. So do that. The Hodge twins were really, really famous for that. Not any exercise I can think of, but that in particular. I haven't kept up with them, but I don't know if they still make videos. But that's something that I remember that really helped me. Novelty. The quick 3-minute ab routine. It's not useless. Like, a lot of people would probably expect something like that to be useless, the whole 8-minute ab burner, blaster, six-pack builder. It's novelty. It's the definition of novelty. It gets people moving. It gets people that are otherwise, like, they don't lift weights, they don't lift. It gets them to exercise. It just, for the most part, doesn't give you very much results. But it's fun, and it gets people moving. And that's the most important part. So I can't call it useless. Where it can become useless is if this is all that you do. You know, if you want to have a 20-inch arms, 20-inch neck, 31-inch thighs, and you're doing the freaking quick 3-minute ab routine, I'm sorry, bro, that's never going to come to you, even if you take vitamin S. The ATG system. Now, a lot of people feel one way or the other about this. It's either useless or it's the best thing since sliced bread. I think a more in the middle take is appropriate. I'm going to call it legendary. A lot of people might, put it in novelty. It's the definition of novelty. I'm going to tell you why I don't agree with that. So here's the thing. There's a large amount of people who don't lift weights or resistance train or exercise at all because they feel as though it invites too much injury, or they have an injury from like their job, just being inactive and getting injured because of that. The ATG system, and Ben Patrick didn't like create this, right? The fella did not create walking backwards on a treadmill or anything that he talks about, but he packaged it and presented it in a way that inspired a lot of people who otherwise would not be lifting weights and training to train hard in some capacity. If you're a bodybuilder, so again, if you're trying to get that 20-inch neck, 20-inch arms, 31-inch thighs, you're not going to get that doing this, but that's not what it's for. It's really good at what it does, and it has helped a lot of people. Can't put it any lower than legendary. So we're getting down to the wire. I want to talk about another blast from the past. CT Fletcher. I command you to grow. This fella used to curl flaming barbells and yell at his muscle like it was a freaking unpaid intern commanding grams of muscle to manifest on his arms and on his body. For me, I attribute him most to curls and isolation because I think that's what he was professionally best at, like strict curls, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what his exact record was, but this is the definition of Immortal because it was prolific at one point, it fizzled out, and then there's a renaissance of it. That's the definition of Immortal. So the Immortal Phoenix, he rises from the ashes. There's been a renaissance of isolation training, which I can't attribute to any one individual, but within the Nattyverse, so like Natural Hypertrophy, Jeffrey, Alex, myself, whether you train for strength, size, a mixture of the two, everybody says to train biceps most effectively, you curl. Is what it is, bro. It's in the name, bicep curls. For a while, there was a meta of, oh, well, isolations are useless because the compound movement lifts the weight with heavier weights and the smaller muscles are engaged in compound movements. So therefore, listen, guys, you want big biceps, bicep curl. Another old head, which I'm going to call, a legendary exercise. Big Hairy Ugly Dude, aka Massive Iron, is known for the really heavy dumbbell rows with body English. This was an era where people were really obsessed with the stretch, the squeeze, tempo, almost too much because they were lifting tiny weights on dumbbell rows with way too strict form, not enough weight, and it was kind of like a dainty exercise to them. He was like, look, man, forget that. Take the 150-pound dumbbells and just crank out 20 reps. Just move the weight at any cost. And to this day, there are some, form aficionados that don't appreciate that. But for me, I appreciate it because it got a lot of people to train a lift that they were not training hard before. They got it to train hard. And obviously, he's a house. So let's see here. Funny story about Big Hairy Ugly Dude, by the way. We're going to talk about it after I talk about front squats. Need to build some suspense. So I'm going to put front squats in legendary. Who remembers that Dmitry Klokov video where he front squats 250 and then yells fucking Russian? Listen, that is the most test boosting freaking video that I have ever witnessed in my life. It's not very long and it's just a jack dude front squatting, but for me, I know that there are people that know what I'm talking about and they lifted weights. They started lifting weights because of that. And then front squats are obviously an effective exercise. But about Big Hairy Ugly Dude, my first interaction with him was on Instagram as a content creator. It was on Instagram. I was talking to Freaky D Dennis about something under one of his posts. And I forget what I said or what we were talking about. But he just interjects like, go clean your room. I must have said something that was like, I think it was like, I called Dennis like Uncle Freak or something. He said, he's not my uncle. Go clean your room. Because he's like older than both of us. And I'm like, man, Big Hairy Ugly Dude told me to clean my room. This was before like he even knew I was a content creator. I think he thought I was like a meme character or something. Because admittedly, the bald Omni-Man picture is literally a meme. Got to talk about the snatch and then the clean and jerk. I attribute this mostly to Clarence and Zach Tellender. Clarence was like the first instance of a fella I saw doing the Oli lifts in like his living room or whatever with enormous amounts of weight. And then there was that 750-pound deadlift video, and then all kinds of like crazy stuff that I know we all remember. But the highest production Oli lifting video that I can remember is that You're Not Lou video from Zach. I think that's the first video I saw from him, honestly. Man, I have to put it on the same level as the squat, bench, and deadlift. I feel like weightlifters are a little bit more uppity than power lifters, and that like they'll say things like, that's not a squat, this is a squat, and then they'll be squatting significantly less weight. If you're a weightlifter that can squat like 600 pounds ass to ankles, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the novice weightlifter that struggle fuck squats 315 approaching a jacked and stacked power lifter that squats literally 2.5 times that, and they'll say, that was barely to parallel. That's not a real squat. All that aside, I do feel as though they're effective exercises. They get a lot of people in the gym, and they got a lot of people who otherwise would not be excited about training. And they'll always be that. Now, I'm gonna save seal row for last. Where are we gonna put seal row? I'm known for seal rows, okay? I think it was me and Toshiki Yamamoto were like the two largest profiles that were talking about seal rows and how great they were. He didn't even talk about them. He just did them and was jacked. I was the one that talked about them. I'm gonna talk about winning warm-ups. I'm split. So I feel as though a good warm-up precedes any weight training stuff. So I feel like it's better than these other things in the great tier, but I don't feel that a good warm-up is legendary either. I don't know how to add another tier, but I would if I knew how to. Maybe it's to click one of these arrows, but I don't want to mess it up. Matt Wenning did not come up with the winning warm-up. He came up with the name winning warm-up, but the idea of just warming up thoroughly with like lighter weight and a lot of reps has been something that meatheads have been doing since there have been weight rooms, okay? He just came up with a cool alliteration name for it. But it's really effective. I gotta give him credit for that, for making it popular. Last one, seal rows. Above Immortal tier, my favorite exercise. I'm just kidding. Bro, I gotta put it in great. So it's an effective exercise, and it's kind of funny because, you know, people will go at any length to freaking do seal rows. They'll put their bench on paint cans. I've seen some crazy shit for people to do seal rows, bro. It's an effective exercise. It's influential, but it's just a barbell row, bro. And people have not been doing it prolifically for long enough for it to be legendary or immortal. It's still somewhat recent. Fellas, that has been the tier list. If I missed any exercises or trends, let me know. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions that you want me to add to an addendum, let me know. I'll see y'all in the next one. Have a great day.